On today's episode of Kilts and Culture with USA Kilts, we try Ardbeg wee Beastie. Rawr.
The history of the Gallic lands is one of struggle, punctuated by moments of sheer brilliance.
Tartan is Scotland's gift to the world, and it is your personal heritage story. Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome to the Kilts and Culture. I'm Rocky. That's not Eric.
Nope.
This is Mac.
Howdy.
He's in front of the camera today. And behind the camera, we have the one, the only, the ever lovely Ian Anderson.
Also not Eric.
Indeed. Also not Eric. Yes, correct. Today, special treat. We got Ardbeg wee Beastie from our buddy Jared Iyer. Very, very small beastie. So we are going to give this a go today. So let me slide in. I need to put wheels in this.
I was going to say,
no, I'm not. I'm not that bright. It's only been what, several years, and I haven't put wheels on this freaking thing. So, Ian, regale us with stories of Ardbeg wee Beastie and what we can expect.
Yeah, so at just 5 years old, the legendary smokiness of Ardbeg is untamed by age, revealing the inner beast of this Isla icon. A rich, explosive mouthfeel of chocolate, tar, and savory meats, while cracked black pepper and pine resin coat the nose. I say, the only Isla icon I want to talk about is Isla Fisher.
explosive mouthfeel of tar.
You know what I want in my tar is an explosion in my mouth of tar. Woo! You can smell it right out of the freaking bottle. All right, Ian, come on around, collect your glass here, and slowly move and hit all the things behind you. Oh, I know it's not a big studio. And tell us what tartan you have on today.
I'm wearing the old Scotland Tweed tartan.
Very nice, lovely. All right, Mr. Mack, what do you
thank
have on there today?
Oh, well, it seemed like we went for a theme here.
Yes,
Because I've got Stewart hunting weathered tweed
yes,
on today. So
that is very, very nice. I have one of those myself.
You do?
I haven't worn it for a while. I wonder if that one still fits. I got to break that one back out of the closet. Yeah, that is what we base the colors of the Nordic Heritage weathered tweed on. So I'm very, very, very excited for that thing to happen. So today I have on my Stewart Royal weathered tartan. So yeah, just love the Stewart Royal weathered. It's a different version of Royal Stewart. So yeah, it's fun. All right, so let's have that tar mouth explosion here that Ian's told us so much about. So on the nose, you get a ton of iodine.
Oh yeah.
It's got that Band-Aid smell, not that rich cloth Band-Aid, the plastic Band-Aid smell.
Oh yeah, it's definitely there.
Yeah.
Do you want the aroma notes?
It tastes, if this it's not going to make any sense, but I'm going to say it anyway. It tastes dry. It tastes like it's got like a scratchy sandpapery. It's going to have a scratchy sandpapery, earthy kind of taste to it.
Yeah. Okay, I see that.
Yeah. All right, Ian, what's my aroma notes?
So, very bright, fresh herbal notes with creeping hints of vanilla and pear. Rich Turkish coffee mingles with sappy pine resin, with honey-glazed ham lurking in the background. With water, more herbal top notes like vetiver and fennel captivate and pull you in, while beguiling scents of aniseed, green apple, and leather cause you to drop your guard. Out of nowhere, a sharp tang of smoke and a crack of fresh black pepper fire warning shots across the senses. This sounds like a kidnapping.
I get a kick in the mouth of peat, a little bit of smoke, and I get the anise.
I kind of get the ham. I kind of see where they're going.
You would.
If you wouldn't have said it, I don't think I'd have picked it up. But
It would have been a mystery meat.
I kind of get the ham.
Yeah, I get dirty Band-Aids and
Dirty
black licorice.
Band-Aids.
Dirty Band-Aids, like dirt and Band-Aids and
Yeah.
black licorice a little bit. And I get a bitter bing bing on the sides in the back of my mouth.
Yeah, it's definitely
Like
sides.
I swished it around, swallow it, and just sitting there with it for a minute, and then like it just appeared out of nowhere. Maybe that was the warning shot that they fired.
That is.
Or that was the kidnapping that occurred. Kidnapping of my taste buds. Any other tasting / flavor notes, Ian?
So the taste is suddenly a rich, explosive mouthfeel bursts forth with chocolate, creosote, and tar. A powerful blast of eucalyptus thrashes about with antiseptic lozenges and aniseed. The raw, smoky intensity gathers pace before smoked bacon and savory meats sink into the palate.
I kind of get the smoky meat thing there at the end. Like,
I mean, certainly with the smoky nature of this scotch, hard not to think about smoked meats. I know that I'm tasting a specifically meaty flavor, though.
I wonder who had like a bowl of tar and was sitting there like,
You know what this tastes like?
like, how did they come up with that?
I think though that people know what tar smells like if they've ever
So
been around
they're
hot tar.
kind of like the skunk
Yeah.
type smell. I can taste the skunk.
Yeah.
It is. See, I can't get all the subtlety and nuance that you're reading, and Mac is getting ham for some reason. I don't get all that because this
Max answered everything.
it's very unbalanced. It's very strong in specific things. It's strong in peat. It's strong in smoke. It's strong in iodine. It's not strong in the other things, so that kind of overpowers everything. Maybe if I open it up with a tiny bit of water, might help a touch.
Yeah, it's definitely. Yeah, I agree. There's too much fighting.
Yeah.
What I would say about this one is that
Dating
it is
Goliath.
it is unbalanced for sure.
Yeah.
I would recommend this one to beginning Scotch or maybe like middling Scotch drinkers because it gives you an idea on how far it can go.
Do you
know?
want them to not want to drink
Well,
Scotch?
that's what I'm saying. Like middling, like
Yeah,
not your
yeah.
first. You don't want it to be your first Scotch, but after you've had a
Fair.
handful, like how far can you push the envelope? How many hops can you put in your IPA? You know what I mean? Like this kind of answers the question.
Never enough. Okay.
I think it's a little more bitter now. I think it cut the smokiness out. For me, it cut the smokiness out
smoke
and
a little
just
bit. Yeah.
went more bitter, more peppery.
Yeah. I'm still getting the back of the mouth. It's not super smooth like I want.
Yeah, it's like side, like halfway and back.
Yeah. I agree. All right. Ian, rate it 1 to 10. Unless you have anything else you want to add to the.
I do want to add the finish notes.
Oh, of
we don't want
course
to
the
forget
finish
that.
notes.
These ones are much shorter. I think the rest of this description has been hot nonsense, but the finish, the long salty mouth coating finish retreats with hints of cocoa and fudge sinking slowly away. I'm definitely getting the salty thing. Salty makes sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an Isla, so it's going to be a very heavy seaweed, salty kind of flavor to it. Yeah, I get the salty. I'll give it that. But that's us. It's just watered down peat. All right. So, give me a rating, 1 to 10. Where are you at on Ardbeg Beastie?
This is a tricky one because this is never going to be a go-to for me. But it is a good one to have every once in a while for the reasons I said earlier. It
So you
gives
can appreciate the other ones that much more.
Yeah, like what was we did like a smoke monster once, or what was it?
Yeah, Smokehead?
Smokehead. That one was no good. That was
we,
terrible.
We did Octomore.
Octomore, yeah.
I think, did we do it? I know we gave it to Jace, but
But I want to compare specifically to the Smokehead because that would just taste like somebody took bourbon and added like liquid smoke to it, and that was disgusting.
Yeah.
This is the good version of that. It's still unbalanced. It's still not to my taste, but I think I'm going to rate it kind of high at a 7 because it's one of the better versions of this unbalanced thing. So yeah, landing at 7.
Okay. Mac?
I'm going 5-6.
Okay. 5-6.
Mm-hmm.
So a little better than average.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. See, it's tricky because I'm trying to. Am I comparing it to other Isla scotches, or am I comparing it to Scotch in general? Because my tastes have kind of evolved over time.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say 4.6, because if you're going to do something smoky and Isle of Scotch, I think there's much, much better versions of it in Lafroig 10 or in Lagavulin. Ardbeg is probably lower on my list of Isle of Scotches, or something that's like real peaty and smoky. So I wouldn't do this. I would go to something like a Lafroig. If I'm going to show somebody something that's real peaty and smoky, I'd probably go to a Lafroig 10 before I did this. It's the young age, I think, doesn't help it either. It's not real burny, which surprised me. I thought it was going to be a little bit more burny.
I think it definitely got more burny after we added water to it.
Yeah, almost.
When we opened it up there.
I'm feeling it.
I think I'm with you if somebody's visiting my house, I'm sharing something from my bar. But if you're somebody at home and you're like, well, I'm going to go buy a bottle because I want to try something, this is going to come in at a much more affordable price point, I
Do we
imagine.
know that? I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that, but I have bought this before.
Okay.
I think it's probably in the neighborhood of $50, whereas the Lagavulin's probably going to be in the 90 something.
Yeah, Lagavulin's
range.
going to be 80 or 90. Lafroig 10 will be in the $50,
Yeah.
$60
Yeah.
range, same as this.
Fair.
So
That's not going to be nearly as smoky as this, though, I feel.
Lafroig will. Yeah. It's got a lot of iodine and smoke flavor to it.
It is more balanced than this. But yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. All right, boys and girls. As always, I'll move this out of the way. As always, we are here but your humble servants to answer whatever questions you have about kilts and or culture-related stuff. While we're waiting for you to fill stuff in the comments down below, Mr. Mack, why don't you give us one of the preloaded questions?
Alrighty, so we have Noah Barnett, who has a lovely barn owl as his little icon there, and on the Facebooks. For each kilt maker, is there a particular kilt you've made that stands out in your memory for reasons both good and or bad?
There are several. We can bring Ian in for this one as well. Ian, what is your? Let's start with.
I could answer both ways for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say best and worst memory, but I don't like. I have several.
I think some of the worst memories end up becoming good because we got them finished. We figured out we solved whatever problem it was that we ran into.
Potentially.
No, but I'm talking about for ourselves personally.
Yeah, no,
in
I'm
your
just
own-
saying that's
Yeah,
I mean,
Okay.
we could probably answer this question for the entire show, too.
that's fair. All right, what was your? Give me a negative one.
The negative one was a Wilson Ancient that I worked on. I was working on this approximately March 19th of 2020, if that gives any sense. It's particularly Wilson's already a challenging one because it's very large set size. And for some reason, we'd had in two separate pieces that needed to be spliced multiple times. And the size of the set was making that even more challenging. And there was a potential of going home and not coming back to finish it because of the world was shutting down. And I was determined. I'm like, no, whatever happens, this is getting done. And it got done. So to Mac's point, I guess it's a positive memory. I also never want to work on Wilson Ancient ever again.
Now, Wilson Nation Lock Karen for some reason has a huge freaking set on it. It's ridiculous. Was that a personal kilt or was that?
No, it was for a customer.
This
I don't
is-
remember who.
Okay, let's try to do personal ones.
Oh, okay.
Mac, negative personal one that you had.
negative personal one for myself. One I made for myself.
You ran into a problem, or you didn't like how it came out, or something. Yeah.
Probably one I have just finished up a little bit ago. Is the oldest piece of cloth I have. It's also part of the original cloth that I had. So when
Dropkick Murphys.
No, that's one I forgot to add to my list. How many I had? I knew I was forgetting more. But this one would have been the Stewart of Appin hunting ancient.
Okay.
I got a 5-yarder that Kelly made me, and then I had gotten extra material. Well, I decided to make a box pleat out of it for myself. But the problem is I was trying to use up all the material. Well, I was using up the material, but so now the backs of the box pleats are overlapping more than they normally would, and I didn't iron it the way I should have to begin with, which ironing the edge of those boxes in beforehand. I only thought about that after I was 3/4 of the way through.
Of course.
So it created a lot of challenge along the way. But it's done. Yay.
my my negative one would be the kilt that was mine for minutes.
Which one?
The yeah, there's actually two. Shoot, which story do I tell now? All right. Well, I'll kind of tell both real quick. The one was the Carnegie Esquibo tartan. I liked Isle of Skye.
Oh.
I figured maybe I could do some purple tartan. So I got this tartan called Carnegie Esquibo from Martin Mills. I got it in, made the kilt, and then I'm like, the whole time I'm making it, I'm like, do I really like this? Am I sure about this? And I got it done and put it on and went out in the store and, pranced around in front of the mirror. Check this out. Look at the pleats. And then I'm just standing here going like, yeah, I don't like this. And I just put it right on the rack to sell. And then 20 minutes later, somebody
Yep.
walked in that exact size and was just like,
Mhm.
oh, I love that one. And I'm like, freaking done. So I dug myself out of a hole. The other one that you triggered the horrific memory in my brain was the American Heritage Legacy tartan, whatever we called it, the antique.
Oh, the antique. Yep.
Yeah. Where I was all excited to do something different with the color scheme of American Heritage years and years and years ago, and we ordered the cloth, and I was like, I don't like it. When I got here, I was like, I don't like it, but I was gonna make myself a kilt, but I don't like it, and I got 2/3 the way through the pleating of the kilt, and I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna stop. I'm not gonna wear this. I don't like it. So that'd be my negative one. All right, Ian, kilt that you made for yourself that. What was the question? So it's like in a memorable kilt in a positive way.
Yep.
Yeah. I would say I don't really have a negative one that I made for myself because
A
I only
positive
make
one.
bangers.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I would go with the very first kilt I ever made. It was a casual kilt polyviscose for the Scruffy Wallace tartan. And I struggled. The first one didn't go great. I had to Mac kept circling things in tailor's chalk that I had to undo and take back out. But I got there, and I still have it to this day.
Very nice. Very nice.
I blame Mac for all the difficulties.
All the chalk marks.
Yes.
I'd probably say maybe my first 8-yarder made. Going that direction, learning it and going, all right, well, I'm going to do one for myself. If I'm going to screw anybody's up, I'm going to screw mine up first.
Yep.
So doing that one for myself and trying to remember which one that one was now, which was my first 8-yarder.
Was your Stewart of Appin, Stewart Hunting ancient from Strathmore?
No, that's a 5-yarder.
That's 5-yard. Okay.
It might have been a Black Watch.
Okay.
For myself. And even so, going another level, the first Black Watch reenactor style kilt one I made too.
Yep.
So doing some more old timey things to it versus more of the modern things to it.
Yep. My favorite kilt memory one is probably my Dropkick Murphy's tartan 8-yard kilt that I made because I was friends with Scruffy Wallace from the band, and designed a tartan for them, and went through the whole process. Had a bunch of it woven in, not a bunch, a small amount woven in wool. Some for him, some for a couple different people. So having to work with the band to design the tartan, to then have it woven, to then making the kilt. It was a cool process altogether. So that's one that kind of holds a special place in the cockles of my heart. So there you go. Good question. All right, Ian.
Yes.
Next
ready for a question. All right. So, Scotty3J over at YouTube, he wants to know. He says, my sporran is rather stiff. Is there a way to loosen it up so my items can fit comfortably inside?
Sporran is stiff. Okay. Do we know if it is a Pakistani pressboard leather sporran, or if it's a Scottish made, or anything about it, or he just said my sporran stiff?
Just said it's sporran stiff. Don't have any data on whether it's a day, a dress,
Okay,
Scottish made,
okay,
wherever.
So I would caution, disclaimer, warning. This advice, we're going to kind of go a couple different directions, depending on what the quality of the leather in the sporran may dictate the outcome. You might ruin it. If it is a cheap pressboard leather, meaning it's a bunch of tiny little leather chips that are like pressed into a board, and that is why it is stiff. If you try to break it in too much, you could actually crack the leather. It could end up badly. So I'm going to, for purposes of this video, assume it is a good quality sporran, made in Scotland, high quality leather, that kind of thing. And I'm going to assume it's not a dress sporran, because a dress sporran, if we're putting oils on it, could actually discolor the fur or have some adverse effects there. So I would say check out needs foot oil or leather conditioner or something like that. The sporran that I have on now, I've actually hit with leather conditioner a few times. And some of my older sporrans, I've hit with leather conditioner to kind of bring the shine back and kind of absorb some of the oil back into the leather. And that's breathed, I won't say like a full, doesn't look like brand new, but it looks like well loved and well taken care of. So there's something to be said for treating your sporran with a little bit of leather conditioner, or like needs foot oil, which is what you use to break in a baseball glove. So it softens the leather and kind of allows it to bend and flex a little bit better. Mac, do you have any leather tips for our friend?
One of my concerns is is he imagining his sporran to be more of like a Rob Roy, where it's supposed to be more soft, more pliable? And is it supposed to be like, this has some stiffness to it, but it has some flexibility. It's not solid stiff. So like, how, like, that would be more my concern, would be, is like, you don't want to go take something like you have or like I have and make it completely pliable.
Yeah, don't want it to be floppy.
Yeah, you want it to have some of that sturdiness behind it.
Yeah, but there are definitely some. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. But there are definitely some sporrans that are much stiffer. So it's more difficult. Or if the top flap is too stiff, it may want to like reopen by itself.
It wants to pop back up.
The snap, exactly. Or in the case of some like old timey sporrans, the top is actually sewn. The top flap is actually sewn separately to the back panel, so you can't lift it all the way open. When you lift it open, it only goes like 2/3 way. So getting your hand in there is a little bit difficult. So certain sporran makers use different grades of leather or qualities or stiffnesses of leather. It's not necessarily that it's a bad quality leather. It just maybe it's like saddle leather, where it's like thicker and harder versus something that's a little bit more flexible, pliable.
Yeah, definitely saddle soap and needs foot oil. That's where I would head to first.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to do for breaking it in. The only other thing I would say is if once you get some leather conditioner on it, just work the whole sporran by itself. So bend the heck out of it. The distressed leather that I have on here, this one, when I did that to it, it kind of gave it some more crackle effect to the face of the leather, so it made it look a little bit more old timey, which is kind of the vibe I was going for with a little bit. So I would say that you could potentially do. I wouldn't necessarily stick it in water and do anything like that, because when it dries, it's going to get hard.
Yeah, it'll dry it out.
Yeah, it'll dry it out too much. But yeah, I would say beat it up.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Very good. Hope that helps. All right. That was you. That was Ian. Mac.
All right. So we got Craig Harkinson. Apart from the material and weight of a kilt, what are other considerations for wearing a kilt, etc., in a hot climate?
Aside from the weight and material.
Weight and material.
Other considerations for wearing a kilt in a hot climate. Okay. So, if you're wearing a kilt in a hot climate, the biggest considerations are, what are you wearing on your head and what are you wearing on your torso? This is a wool tweed flat cap with a bit of quilted cotton lining on the inside. I'm an idiot for wearing this during the summer, but I just love the freaking hat. So this will it'll make me warmer. If I was outside for several hours, I wouldn't want to wear this. I would be sweating. And it kind of wouldn't even almost matter what the shirt was. The second consideration is, what are you wearing for your top? So are you wearing a performance fabric type shirt? Are you wearing a t-shirt? Are you wearing, a tweed jacket and vest? Consider the layers. So the kilt itself, the positives are wool breathes, and there's a lot of air conditioning, and airflow underneath the kilt. The negative is you're wearing multiple layers of 13 or 16 ounce cloth wrapped around you, stacked up and held flat against your body. So that area will tend to be a bit warmer. So I would say focus on headwear and your shirt. Mac.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't specify what he's doing in this hot climate either. We don't know if he's going like anywhere formal, if he's just everyday wear. I mean, I'm always warm in general. Like, as soon as, it doesn't matter what time of year it is, I turn my fan on as soon as I get into the sewing machine, and in my office the fan goes on. So I'm always warm. But yeah, having lighter weight garments around as for a shirt, even socks, having maybe wearing crew socks instead of kilt hose, again depending on what you're doing out and about. But yeah, you definitely hit it with the headwear. It's gonna just trap everything in. If especially your little wool cap you got there. But yeah, I think a lighter headwear, maybe a linen at this point.
Yep.
Maybe a linen flat cap like that, maybe.
I would love to have a linen flat cap like this, Mac. Why don't you just pour some salt in that wound, Mac? Difficulties with suppliers. Anyway, I would say that the hose thing, good thought. If you're wearing the only tricky thing about hose is the event or how casual or formal or dressy or smart day wear you're going to be. So if I'm going somewhere where I'm supposed to look nice, I wouldn't necessarily wear cotton crew socks, or I wouldn't want to wear cotton or wool kilt hose. So maybe cotton kilt hose, something with a little more breathability to it, or a thinner kilt hose or something like that. That can help with it as well. So yeah, good thoughts. Cool. Hope that helped. Mr. Ian.
Yes. Let's go with a question from Patrick Dion Cuno over on Facebook. He wants to know, how many pleats does a typical kilt have?
An 8-yard kilt would have typically 30-ish pleats. So maybe 32, maybe 28, somewhere in that kind of range. If the set size is a little bit bigger, it might have 26. If the set size is smaller, it might have 34. So but it should have a reasonable number of pleats. Now, if you are a really, really, really big guy and it's a 10-yard kilt, it may have 35 or 40 pleats. If you're a super small guy and it's, a reasonable size set, maybe it's only 23 pleats or 22 pleats. I wouldn't get too hung up on the number of pleats, as long as the overall look looks good. There should be a reasonable number and a reasonable width. So you want the face of the pleat, the part that you're seeing on an 8-yard kilt, to be under an inch. So 3/4 of an inch or so. It's maybe up to 0.9, maybe down to 0.6, but somewhere in that range for the width of a pleat, and then stacked up across the back. Yeah, that'll give, generally speaking, about 30 pleats. Mac.
Yeah, I mean that's our goal every time we do a TS8 or an 8-yarder, is 30 pleats is where we're trying to end up, and we're usually somewhere between 27, 32, depending on again the set size and the size of the person. But yeah, 30 is about where we head to.
Now on a 5-yard kilt, what would you say the average is? Because the pleat width on a 5-yarder is 1 to 1.1 ish. Is about the max.
I'd say we're
22.
Yeah, 25 at max if it's a bigger guy.
Yeah.
And then casual would be even less than that, because now we're looking at an inch and a half wide pleat. So, now we're looking at 18, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe less.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all it's all going to be relative to the size of the person and the set size. So that's going to be the two big factors.
Yep. And the amount of cloth that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have Aberdeen or Wilson or something like that, where it's an 18-inch or a 20-inch set size, we're going to have to make up a set or the pleat's going to be 2 inches wide and there's going to be 10 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's all a balancing act. The things you have to account for are the size of the set, the size of the individual, meaning their waist and hip measurements, the size of the face of the pleat, how deep each pleat's going to be. So yeah, and how much cloth you physically have sitting in front of you to make the kilt. So we could make a 10-yard kilt for a guy with a 36-inch hip, and each pleat's going to be 0.4 inches, but that's too much.
Casey will love that.
Yeah. Oh, Casey. So cool. Hope that helps, Mr. Mac.
All right. So we have Brian asking, I have a question about tartans. I am familiar with the popular, beautiful, maybe even dramatic tartans like American Dream, Glen Affric, Isle of Skye, Black Stewart. What's your favorite tartan that's just as beautiful, but perhaps more subdued, but not as popular? And he says his choice would be Manx Hunting Ancient.
Manx Hunting Ancient. That's a very nice tartan. I do like Manx Hunting Ancient. That's a nice one. Ian.
He likes it so much that he has one.
Yeah, I used to have one.
We've all owned this one at one time or another.
Yeah. Subdued.
Mine's in the building.
kind of chill tartan.
Yeah.
That speaks to you. It speaks to your soul.
This is a bit of a cop-out, but the one I'm wearing, the old Scotland Tartan Tweed, is very rustic. Because it's tweed, the colors blend a little bit more than typical worsted wool for tartan. Not unlike Max a little bit there. So yeah, I think it's a good, it doesn't pop in terms of colors. It's in a crowd of kilted guys, it stands out because it's unique, but the colors themselves aren't overly bam, bam, bam in your face.
Okay. Mac.
I automatically go to 2. And the first one you're wearing. The second one I think is a little bit more brighter in some aspects, but it's a muted palette, so it's going to be a little bit brighter than the weathered. Is the Stewart of Appin 1842 variant.
Okay.
So that's been one on my hit list for a long time, and it still is. I haven't gotten around to getting it. I will eventually. I got 4 other ones to make first. So, but that's where I lean to.
Okay. See, when I think subtle, mine, I tend to go towards a weathered palette.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the 2 that are the ones that stand out to me that I really love are Buchanan weathered and the Stewart Old weathered, which we just did the custom run of recently. Both of those are very, the weathered color palette, kind of all the colors, the contrast is down a bit. So it's a little bit more subtle, but still a nice design.
You have a Buchanan weathered, don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. It's a little bit shorter than I normally made them, so I don't wear it as much.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But yes, that'll be my pick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Very good. Ian.
Yes. So, Wolf Warden over on Twitch wants to know. He says, I'm familiar/comfortable with kilt hose and flashes for semi-formal and dress outfits. But when it comes to casual or active, for example, hiking, kilt outfits, what can I do for the lower leg? Hose and flashes with boots and casual setting feels uncomfortable, and just having boots with matching height socks is also uncomfortable looking. Do you have any advice for Wolf?
Sure. For me, I would either, I would say a good, comfortable type option would be cotton kilt hose. So there's a couple places that do sell cotton kilt hose, including us. That's a good option. And this is just for casual. I would say you could start there if you want it to be a little bit dressier, because that way you still get the kilt hose in, but it's more comfortable than wool. Option B, well, I'm going to push back on the wool idea a little bit. Also, there are some flavors of wool that are more a merino acrylic blend. So in that instance, it's not like hot and itchy or anything like that. So there are some more comfortable levels of wool kilt hose and some less comfortable levels of kilt hose. So I'd point that out as well. For me, I know what you mean on the boot socks. If I'm wearing, I have gold toe socks and one other brand, I forget what brand of socks I have, but some of them, when I'm wearing 10-inch boots, they will come just to the top of the boot and won't really stick out above, and I don't love that look. Or if I'm wearing 8-inch boots, they'll be like just barely above the top of the 8-inch boots. So I would wear longer cotton socks. So not ones that like come up to your knee or anything like that, but ones that'll come up like mid calf. And then if you wear, either 8-inch or 10-inch boots, you can scrunch them down a little bit and have a slightly more casual vibe to it than, having to keep them pulled all the way up or having them shrink down into the boots and feeling like you don't have any socks on.
Did he say he was hiking in them?
It's one of the activities he suggested.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because where I went was the scrunch down cotton socks. So you could have them scrunched down above the boot, or sometimes I've seen, and I've done it too, where I've folded the cuff more around the top of the boot.
Okay.
Making more of, I'm going to use like
Wellington boots or
like a putty,
putty,
a short putty wrap on them. That way, if I'm going through taller brush, I can pull them up when I'm going through that tall brush to help protect the leg a little bit. Once I get through the brush, then push them back down again.
Okay.
So using them a little bit more for a utilitarian purpose along the way.
Yeah. So form follows function thing. It's not necessarily the best look, but it works for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Ian, you hike a lot.
Yeah, I like that strategy because I'm kind of in a similar boat where I'm not 100% sure how I want to do it. Because when I dress pretty casually around the shop, like dressed how I might hike, because I often wear hiking boots regardless. I'm often not wearing kilt hose. I'm wearing, short socks or socks scrunched down. But when I go hiking, you do want some protection for your legs potentially. But it can be too hot as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the ability to put them up and put them down, I like that. I might have to try that next time I hike in a kilt. But yeah, cotton kilt hose is a good idea. You don't want to, ruin your $60, $70 merino wool kilt hose.
Yeah, I mean, I took that
that
thought from a World War II memoir World War I memoir where they were pulling them up and then flipping the cuff up over their knee, so when the edge of the kilt would freeze from the snow and ice, it would rub their knees raw. So they're flipping the top of the cuff up, and even going through barbed wire through tall grass, they're bringing it up over their legs to help protect them. So I'm like, that's smart.
Yeah.
So
I hope Wolf isn't running in any barbed wire while he's out
exactly.
hiking, but
he's out
it just
there,
depends on where he's
hiking
going
in no
hiking.
man's land. It's fine. It's fine.
Trying
could
to break
go
into
wrong?
Area 51.
yeah.
Cool. Hope that helped. All right, Mr. Mac.
All right. So we have Steve Sanders asking, do you have to adjust your technique at all between working with wool and PV? If so, what are the difference between sewing, pleating, planning, whatever?
Wool and PV.
Wool and PV.
Okay. Do you adjust your technique? Yes. There's a few things. One, so PV, let's start before we even, we just have the bolt of cloth on the table. PV cloth, most of the time from the mill will come with a fringed selvage, a fringed edge along the bottom. Unless it's one of ours that we have custom woven for ourselves, then we can dictate, I want a tuck-in kilt selvage. But if there's a fringe selvage, we have to account right off the bat for a hem because we don't want that little fringe bit at the bottom. So we end up serging that off and then using a blind stitch and hemming up the entire length of the kilt. So that's one consideration.
Mm-hmm.
And how you iron a hem like that is from the back side, so you don't shine the front of the fabric. So those are considerations you have to keep in mind. I would also say it really boils down to the hand feel and the stretchiness of the cloth. And even within different tartans or from different mills, you may have a little bit different, or the feed dogs are grabbing, or the foot on the machine is putting a little bit more pressure on a particular weight or a particular type of cloth, and it's like it's pulling more or less. So you want to make sure when you're folding one pleat over to the next and then sewing down through it, you want to make sure that all the layers are staying still and they're feeding into the machine essentially at the same rate, so that the lines on the tartan, the horizontal lines, don't have like a stair effect where they kind of step up. So you want to make sure they're all feeding in simultaneously. And to do that, you tend to pull back on the lower layer and let the top layer kind of feed in naturally.
Well, and even with wool, you have your different weights too. They're all going to be different pulls to them as well.
Yep.
And then add the next level of the mill. This 11 ounce in this mill versus this 11 ounce in this mill are going to pull different. So you have like multiple layers within that yet too.
Yeah.
And then with your PV, you still have they're all coated exactly the same. The Teflon coating is exactly the same. Some of them you can just fold in half and just run your hand down and it'll crease perfectly. Others, you're going to have to use the iron more. But even there, the pull is different on them too.
Yeah, agreed. And let's talk about wool, about tweed. So the considerations for tweed, if you're going to make a tweed kilt, are essentially one thing that we have to think about is how are we going to cut the cloth? Do we know if this person has a jacket and vest in the same cloth or not? Or are they going to want a jacket and vest in this cloth at some point? The problem with tweed is that the rest of the world, like the rest of the world that makes garments from cloth, typically you have the long ways of the cloth is called the warp, and the short ways is the weft. That's the weft. So when you lay out patterns, typically you lay them out the long ways along the warp, and that would be horizontal on the kilt. So when you lay out, let's say a jacket or a vest pattern, you're laying it out this way on the kilt. This is the way that, let's say, herringbone goes, is this direction, or pinstripes will run this direction. So when you lay it out there, and then you cut it, and you're sewing it, and it's turning 90 degrees on your body. A kilt, if you cut it out this direction in tweed with herringbone, when you actually wear the kilt, the herringbone is going to be going across your body horizontally as opposed to vertically up and down. So the way that a kilt maker should handle tweed fabric, herringbone otherwise, is, or even a window check or a window pane, kind of tweed, they should be cutting out longer skinny sections of the kilt vertically off the bolt, flipping it 90 degrees, splicing them together, hemming the bottom all at one time, and splicing it, let's say 3 times for a 5 or an 8 yard kilt. The problem is that's work. And some companies don't want to do that. So if they say, oh, we got a tweed kilt, great. They just cut it straight the same way they would a normal kilt. The problem is, if you get a jacket and vest that you want to match, it's going to be the pattern going this way on the kilt and this way on the jacket and vest. So it's not going to match. It's going to look weird. Or if you have none of us have on tweed vests, but if we have on a window pane tweed vest where you have, let's say it's a brown tweed, and you have a blue stripe running this way and a red stripe running this way on the tweed, if you want them to run the same direction for the jacket and vest and for the kilt. So you want to make sure that which, if the customer has a jacket and vest or is going to want a jacket and vest, or yeah, it's just a consideration you really, really, really have to pay attention to as a kilt maker, and you can't take the easy way out of, nope, we're just gonna cut it that way and woo, we're done. The only time that doesn't matter is if it is like a charcoal fleck tweed where it's a plain weave and there's no right way or wrong way, that the jacket and vest would look the same as the kilt itself. In that instance, great, have at it, just one and done. But if it's going to have any kind of pattern on it, whether it be herringbone or whether it be a window pane, then it has to be cut up vertically, spliced together multiple times, and done properly.
The only two other things I'd point out is a lot of times those window panes are rectangles. They're tall rectangles.
Yep.
So if we do cut it out across the kilt this way, now your rectangles are
Short and squat,
yeah,
not tall and skinny.
Yeah. So now,
yep,
that's definitely another sign between your jacket and vest. Because again, we got to get in your head thinking, all right, do they have this? Are they going to want this? They probably are. So we're going to automatically cut it across the bolt, just in case down the road you make that decision. The other thing, especially in those more solid color tweeds, like a Love It Blue or a Love It Green, if we fringe that out, that's going to change your fringe. Yeah. Your fringe is going to be blue on a green kilt or green on a blue kilt. Yeah. So that's the other thing we got to worry about too, is how that fringe is going to look.
Yeah. Sometimes what he's referring to is sometimes when a mill weaves a tweed, they can use two different colors together. But, if it's blue this way and green this way, when you mesh them all up together, it looks beautiful. It has like this marled kind of, a mottled effect. But when you pull out these threads, you're left with just one color that way or just one color that way. So the fringe down the front apron is going to look different. You're right.
Yeah.
Good point.
It's going to stand out.
Yeah.
So, and not necessarily it's a bad thing, but
it could be good, could be bad. Don't know. So cool. Excellent. Good question. Mm-hmm. Yes. Was that the question of the day question?
No, it was not.
No. Okay. Very good. Ian, give me another question then.
Okay. I'm going to give you a question from Robert McLeod Brown, who's joining us on YouTube. This question is perhaps a bit too personal to him, but I think it applies to a lot of people in different ways. He wants to know, am I too old, tall, and thin to wear a kilt? I'm 6'8", 205 to 210 pounds, and 72 years old.
Nope. The beautiful thing about the kilt is it fits. If they're tailored for you, which most kilts are, it's going to fit you well. It's going to fit your body the way it should fit. It fits. It accentuates the better parts of you. It'll hold in. If you have a belly at all, it'll help hold that in. And it doesn't matter if you're tall because it helps proportion you out a little bit. And it goes beyond just the garment itself. It speaks to your level of confidence. And confidence is attractive, period. Not cockiness. I know no one who's cocky. Cockiness isn't, but confidence is definitely attractive. So whether you're 70, whether you're 20, whether you're 120, it doesn't matter. A kilt is for everybody and every body. See what I did there? See what I did there? So yes, no, don't feel weird about it. Don't feel bad about it. Have at it.
I mean, every day we make them for newborns all the way to, unfortunately,
death kilts.
Yeah, it's the whole gamut. In every shape, size, curve, in between. But yeah, I mean, we make them for everything. So, and everybody, again. Yeah, you're right. I think you nailed it. It's the confidence thing, spot on.
Yep. And it doesn't matter, like, just because you're old or young, like the people, when you first get into wearing kilts or first, discover, you want to explore your heritage or you want to wear a kilt for a fashion statement or whatever it is, the first time you wear it, there's always that, what are people going to think? And and that is, that happens regardless of age. Most people feel that at 20, they feel it at 30, they feel it at 50. It doesn't matter what age you are. You're going to feel that the first time you wear a kilt. I still remember the first time I wore a kilt in my mid-20s. Put it on and went out in public. And at that time I was going out sans underwear. But it felt like, no, I guess the first time I wore it to the gym. So I did wear underwear. But when I would go out in public wearing a kilt, it always I had a weird feeling of like, this kind of feels like I'm out in public with a bath towel. Like there's not much protecting my modesty from the world, or the world from my modesty. So you always have some kind of, inner voice saying like, I don't know. Are you sure you want to do this? You just got to listen to the other guy who's just like, shut up. I'm doing it. So, yep, that's how I feel about it. Ian.
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in here. You guys did a great job of addressing the general topic. I want to speak to Robert specifically. Robert, you're 72 years old. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and can't wear. I hear from people all the time. I've been wanting a kilt for 40 years. I can't believe I waited this long. Don't be that guy who gets to 82 and wishes he did it 10 years ago. Do it.
Fair. Yep. All right, Mac. Good on you, Robert. Good luck. Don't let the bastards grind you down. Have at it.
Alrighty. So, Mr. Aaron G. Peabody asks, what is the number one item on your wish list when it comes to Highland dress? The sky is your limit, and your answer does not have to be realistic. What is your number one item on your wish list when it comes to Highland dress? He says his one would be, his wish would be for House of Edgar to start weaving all their beautiful 13-ounce tartans in 16-ounce wool.
Okay. Ian, do you have a wish from time and space and whatever that you want to happen, realistic or not?
Yeah, I'd say mine is medium on terms of the scale of realistic. I would just love to see a vastly broader range of colors for kilt hose and garter ties and flashes and that kind of thing. It's easy to do bottle green, navy blue to cover most modern tartans, ancient blue and ancient green to cover ancient tartans, and then a red, a black, and a gray. But I'm drawn to tartans that
Obscure.
are more obscure, and they use unique colors, because I don't want to be that guy wearing a tartan that looks a lot like all the other tartans in the room when you got a room full of guys in kilts. So sometimes I think there's just great opportunities for using a couple elements in your outfit that don't match any of the colors in your kilt, and using them in interesting ways. So yeah, looking for more ways to do that would be interesting. Sometimes I'm flummoxed at wanting a pair of garter ties, and there are more things readily available than the 6 or 7 colors I said earlier. But it's really tough to find a nice pair of pink garter ties to go with the Caledonia Calling kilt that I have. There are some pink ones out there. It's not that pink doesn't exist, but a lot of them are the wrong pink. Because I'm too picky and I'm part of the problem.
At least he recognizes it.
Not saying a word. Mac, what's your wish?
I want Wilson's of Bannockburn color palette back. That's what I want. I want that puke green color.
It's not puke. It's a good olive green.
I want them both. I want that puke green, and I want that olive green. I want that blue. I want that navy blue in there. I want that color palette back.
Okay. I see where you're going. I have 2, and one of them, it very much overlaps that. The unrealistic part. I want to travel back in time and have Wilson's of Bannockburn not close. I want the records to be continuous from the 1700s when they first started. I think they closed in the early 1900s. And some of their records were essentially like auctioned off, and they exist in collections and some in museums. But I wish they would have stuck around and continued, like to this day, to weave tartans, including your Wilson's of Bannockburn colors, and see what they would have done and how they would have evolved and kept up with the times. And also to give us another mill option aside from Loch Carron, Strathmore, House of Edgar, Martin Mills, So that's that one. That's the unrealistic. My other one's kind of unrealistic too. I wish, and it can't happen because of economies of scale and because of the amount of time it takes to set the thing up, but I wish it was more cost effective to do short runs of tartan.
Mm.
I wish that, Mr. Reed, Bill Reed, could get the Reed tartan in a, single kilt length just for him and it not be, $1,200. I wish it could be the same price as a regular kilt, to have something custom woven. And, I wish that I'm going to expand. Oh, okay. I'm going to go nuts here.
Kicking the door down.
So yeah, no, doors off the hinges. So, custom weave was less of a price, and there was millions, maybe not millions, but hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of choices of yarn colors, similar to Ian's, but yarn colors for custom weaves. So if there was 20 different shades of yellow, not 3.
Mm-hmm.
50 different shades of blue, 50 different shades of green, 27 different shades of red. And there was, a massive rainbow of colors. Think like you go into Home Depot, over to the paint wall, and you see all the paint swatches. I want that level of choice with yarn colors for kilts. We may or may not be coming up with a project where we're dealing with a lot of custom weaves in the near future. And I want more freaking choices for yarn colors to put into different tartans. And I want less, handcuffs in those choices. And I want the price to be down, not for me, because I'm going to order larger quantities, but I want the price to be down for all the people out there who want their own tartan or who want to do something special and different, because I want more diversity in tartan designs that are out there. It's not going to happen because the economies of scale, because of the cost of time and setting up the mill and setting up the loom, but that's my wish. So I'm going to flip it around to you guys. Question of the day. Patrick, there you go. Look at that. What is one item or idea from Highland dress, realistic or not, that you wish would happen? So we have a billion different colors of garter ties. We have Wilson's Bannockburn colors. Wilson's Bannockburn the mill. As well as color choices. I have too many wants and desires. So who am I to ask? But what's your guys, what do you guys want to see happen that either might happen or there's not a shot in hell? But it would be really neat and really cool if it did happen and you'll want it to happen. Put it down in the comments. We'll retouch on this at the end of the show. Excellent. All right, we are at the halfway point. So while you're tippity-tappity typing down there, let's roll our Kilt Ambassador of the Month.
Kilts and nerds go together pretty much like Twizzlers and all-night D&D sessions. So our ambassador today is Micah Widman of Royersford, Pennsylvania, an obscure town on an obscure planet in the unfashionable arm of the galaxy. Micah is new to the kilt scene, but you'd never guess it. You could say she is a rabid convert. Micah bought her first kilt back in 2022, a Verilas utility kilt. Fast forward to now, and she has a collection of 29. Now, we here at USA Kilts may have a small part in supporting that addiction, since Micah basically lives right around the corner from us. In her free time, Micah hits a lot of rock concerts throughout the year, loves to hike, and of course, does pretty much everything kilted. She's a self-described nerd and shares many of her passions with her wife, Stephanie. A self-professed 80s pop culture junkie, her collection of Transformers includes, get this, over 500 toys, including the much-coveted 27-inch tall Unicron. Don't be too jealous, Rocky. Speaking of 80s pop culture, Micah's other big hobby, or maybe we should say her night job, is a bit unusual. That's right, Micah is a Ghostbuster. Micah is a member of the Keystone Ghostbusters, a club of about 30 enthusiasts who bring their passion for the franchise to all kinds of events, including conventions, car shows, and charity fundraisers. Micah's actually been what they call a ghost head since she first saw the film as a kid. She constructed her own uniform and props, including a sweet proton pack and some pretty legit-looking gadgets. And all that before joining Keystone, by the way. So does she kilt up when she's bustin'? Sometimes. It depends on the event, since authenticity is a major hallmark of the club. Micah didn't grow up with Celtic family roots. Like a lot of us, she became aware of the kilt through Ren fairs and Celtic music. While she loves Celtic culture, the main draw for her is freedom of expression. Micah is trans, and her personal gender journey began just a short time before she got into kilts. She says, "I am trans, but it doesn't define the whole of who I am. I'm so much more than that. I mean, I am proud of what I have accomplished for myself. If I was trying to hide it, I wouldn't have a trans flag tattoo on my arm. But also, I don't want people to think it's a gimmick. Mainly, I want other trans folks to see me and know it's going to be okay." And cliche as it sounds, Micah does love the sense of confidence kilts provide. The swish and swagger work for her. She says, "I enjoy wearing kilts because they are comfortable, but also because I like to show the world that you don't have to conform to traditional expectations of what you should or shouldn't wear. Life is so much more than the boxes people put themselves in. Do something different. Enjoy life the way you want." I couldn't agree more. Now, I don't know if I would go so far as collecting 500 Transformer robots, but I admire that dedication to all that nerddom and especially to kilts. Thanks, Micah.
So here's to Micah. Cheers, Flange. She definitely has an enviable Transformers collection.
Yeah, way
That
more
is-
than you.
Shh. Don't- way to hurt me, Mac.
All right, she's only one ahead of you.
It's much more than one. It's much more than one. Very good. All right, Flange. Ian, what do we got going on?
So the very first question that we got in the live stream before it had even officially, gone fully live was from Micah, believe it or not. Micah wants to know, what tartan would you pair with a Geyser Blue Subaru? It's a very bright blue,
Geyser Blue Subaru.
unique to the
Well, isn't the
Wilderness
first
Edition.
mistake not getting a classy vehicle like a Chevrolet?
Yeah, or Jeep.
Yeah,
Or Jeep, yeah. An American-made vehicle, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
at least the Chevy has the bow tie, the nice bow tie.
Indeed, yes. So bright blue tartan. See, I wouldn't do like Earl St. Andrews comes to mind for multiple shades of blue, but it's probably going to be too dark because it's navy and light. I would go either law enforcement or Elliot would be the two that I would jump out to me as a bold royal blue kind of bam. Mac.
The one that I went to right off the bat was thinking of some of the PV we used to have.
Oh
and
yeah.
thinking of the McRae that we had, that was an electric blue. That fell
Yeah.
in Limerick on the way here.
Yeah. The Ramsey was electric
Yeah.
blue too. Yep. There's a
Mhm.
Ramsey New Blue or whatever they called it.
Yeah, new blue. I think is
Yeah.
how they have it listed.
That's a bold one as well. Ian, do you have any as a Subaru person yourself?
And I think I'm a little bit more. I'm more familiar with this color, being a Wilderness Edition owner, like Micah is.
He's one of those.
I think the best answer you guys gave for matching the color specifically is the Elliot. It is a very bright blue. I think some of the Welsh tartans get at how bright that blue is.
Okay.
One of the best answers in the comments was Earthrise. I think that would be mwah.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. Hope that helps. And send me all your Transformers. Mac.
All right, so we got Bert Gordon asking, currently there are traditional kilts and utility kilts. Is there a secret third option that you've been thinking about creating? Should there be?
So a Frankenstein's monster of kilts. I would actually push back at the premise of the question. There's not just two.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have utility kilts on one end of the scale, if we're gonna have it as scale. And then you have like traditional 8-yard wool kilts. You have hand sewn, if you want to consider that like the furthest down the one side of the scale. Then you have machine sewn 8-yard kilts, and you have top stitched 8-yard or 5-yard kilts. You have box pleated kilts in a medium yardage. You have acrylic kilts. You have polyviscose kilts. You have utility kilts with tartan insets. You have different types of utility kilts. You have great kilts. There's a lot of different types of kilts. So are there, kilts, some have pockets, some have sporran, or most have sporrans. So there's, I think in the last 20 years, or a little bit more, technically 25 years, the fashion of kilts, not really highland wear, because I consider that a separate fashion. These are different fashiony things have been done with kilts and kind of moved the center of Highland wear around a bit. Now, traditional Highland wear is always going to be traditional Highland wear, but the center line has definitely moved based on contemporary kilts or utility kilts or people that put pockets in their kilts or different designs and styles of kilts. Yeah, or yardages of kilts. Mac.
This was turning into a Forrest Gump and Bubba, talking about
the kilts.
Yeah, like the shrimp gumbo. we're getting into to all that. So
shrimp soup, shrimp stew, shrimp salad.
But what? So do you think there should be another option? Is there something out there in the world that
is there something missing?
Something missing that should be like a fiber optic one that you hit a button and it changes whatever color you want it to be.
That's not missing at all.
Or a reversible one where what's tartan on one side and tartan on the other side.
You can kind of do that with what's it called? Kilts with pleated the stripe.
You could, yeah.
Depends on which stripe it's pleated to. Kind of. I'm not saying it would look good. You can do it. Especially if it has a lining up top, then you couldn't do it. But no, I don't think there's anything missing. There's tweed kilts already, and they're quasi historical anyway. They're historical in fact that they've been around for a long time. They're just not as popular. But I think playing with material to some degree is something to do, or just playing with the patterns and having more tartan patterns is probably the next evolution. The style of the kilt itself, flat apron in front, pleats in back. It's kind of set. People have played around with it with the utility kilts and things like that, but I don't think that's going to ever be a huge thing in Highland wear. So I think the natural progression for Highland wear is playing around with the pattern itself. So introducing new tartans, and playing with the accessories around the outfit. So maybe playing with styles of sporrans, or playing with tweed jackets, or what you're wearing up top for a shirt and jacket or vest, or not jacket and vest, or things like that. That's kind of where I'm going with it.
Yeah, I mean, the garment's kind of been around for a little while. There really hasn't been too much.
There's been some evolution,
but where's it gonna go? There's different buckles, different closures, pleating options could change along the way.
That's kind of where you got my brain going just then was, where's it going to go? It goes back to where it came from. So we've seen an uptick in grade kilts. Mm-hmm. So more people wearing grade kilts casually. We've seen, now we don't really do it too much, but I've seen an uptick in box pleated kilts or other styles of pleating on kilts. So I think there could eventually be a little bit more of that. So more of a think of it more of as a cycle of now, these things were popular. The kilt evolved beyond the grade kilt and it became the half kilt, then it became the tailored kilt. So where is there to go? Well, check out the old stuff. The resurgence of Victorian items.
Yeah.
In the last, 5-10 years. The Outlander effect, the Braveheart effect that we've, experienced in the last 25 years or so, 30 years. Jesus, I'm old. All that kind of feeds back into the cycle of it.
Well, and that's where we see the tweeds and the weathers coming in more to play now.
Yep.
Seeing those rotate around. And I guess it's like you think of it in any other fashion along the way. It once was, comes back around at some point.
Yep.
So
sometimes it shouldn't. I'm not saying I'm embarrassed of my Jenko jean phase, but it was there. Happy to leave it. But yeah, 80s colors comes back in, 70s bell bottoms comes back in. So yeah, all fashion is cyclical. With kilts, it just takes a much longer rotation around that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Cheers. Ian.
So Pyro Dancer 123 over on Twitch. Hopefully they're still with us, but I suspect they've popped out. They're tuning in waiting for their job interview. It says, I have a fabric question. With as heavy and dense as wool can be, have any of the mills explored more breathable fabrics like cotton or linen? I know they wouldn't hold shape as well, but the improved breathability seems like it might be a fair trade-off for those in hot climates.
Short answer is no. The problem, the crux of the problem is not problem, but situation as it exists. Kilts are, mainly worn in Scotland, and wool. Scotland's a cooler climate, and that is how kilts have evolved. There were silk kilts. Wait, there's a historical example of silk kilts and other things, but it kind of evolved into nope. Wool is, the best option for a kilt. So that's kind of how tartan evolved. Now, there are, polyviscose fabric is similar to cotton in weight and feel. So that would be a reasonable option. But even that didn't evolve for kilts. It evolved for schoolwear. And then enterprising young kilt companies in Canada and the US started playing around with it, saying, hey, we want some cooler options and some less expensive options. We're going to buy that because those are real tartans in non-wool fabric, which are more cost effective and a little bit cooler. So that's kind of how that evolved a bit. And you answered you stole my answer in your question, in the statement in your question, in that linen or cotton are really going to wrinkle as soon as you sit on cotton or as soon as you sit on linen, and you're sitting for, if it's a car ride of more than 5 minutes, or if you're sitting on it, in a chair at work for several hours during the day, it's just going to wrinkle. It's your body heat and you're against, let's say, a leather chair, if it's not breathable, and trapping the moisture in there of sweat and heat. It's going to wrinkle it. And it's going to just, as soon as you stand up, it's going to be, puff out like a tutu and just kind of, be a wrinkly tutu mess.
Yeah, we see that a lot of festivals where there's someone's driven there all day, finally got there, and it's just Clan McWrinkle, all over. I mean, we have seen other examples of hemp style kilts.
That's a little bit better.
That's
Our kilt did it.
Yeah, but also the one I was thinking of, wasn't there like an athletic type?
Utility did a Spartan model with like an athletic fabric, like
yes,
a poly.
That's what I was thinking of, and that just looked it just stretchy. It really just It
was like athletic shorts kind of material. Yeah, that I wasn't a big fan of. I don't think they do it anymore.
I'm just trying to give other things that we've seen in how it looked, how it kind of just was like, it was a phase.
They gave it a shot.
Yeah, threw it against the wall, saw what happened, and was like, now we're good.
Yeah. I remember my one of my first 2 kilts was a company called Kilt way back when, and they had black cotton twill fabric. And I remember every time you got it, the pleats were not that deep. They were like 2 inches or so, a little over 2 inches wide at the bottom of the fill, and they weren't that deep. And I remember like when you would get up from sitting down, it would just stick out and be very, very wrinkly, and it was just a hot mess. So I love the owner, very, very nice guy, but it never looked good. It never looked well put together. So it was, it's kind of a flawed starting point. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you think about, because you brought up about silk earlier, and some of the kilts way back when, they had a line, maybe like this red line was silk in it with the wool. Do you see something like that potentially coming back?
Nope.
Okay. It was just thought. I mean, you brought up about silk.
Yeah.
I mean, they used it more of an accent to help separate the lines a little better.
I could see somebody trying to, in a fashiony kind of way, trying to play around with it, maybe, like a fashion forward type weaver. But I don't see. I don't love the mixing of something really lightweight like silk with something heavier weight like wool. It feels odd, or it feels like there's going to be too many complications in the weaving mechanism and the process. It feels like too much could potentially go wrong.
Fair.
Yeah, that's kind of where my brain's at with it. Okay. Good question, though.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That was Ian.
It was you.
Mr. Mac.
All right. So we have a question from Colton Derek Cunningham. Got 3 names. This question is geared towards you, sir.
Dun, dun, dun.
So now that you've grown the business and have other people handling other duties, what percentage of the time do you spend managing the business versus being hands-on in production room, marketing, and the sales floor, etc.?
Good question. When, like any small business, when you first start, you are chief cook and bottle washer, and you have to do everything from, dealing with website stuff, through answering all the emails, through making the kilts, through placing the orders, through dealing with the garbage, through paying rent, through getting the electric set up, through the phone systems. You deal with everything. And then as you grow, you bring people in to help you with the things. The aha light bulb type moment that I had was realizing that I needed to trust other people to help me do the things. I couldn't, there's only so many hours in a day. And, I had, Mac and Ian and multiple other people helping sew kilts. But I was still sewing kilts as well as answering the emails and answering the phone and doing other things. So I just got stretched too thin and didn't realize how thin I was stretched, and didn't realize that me doing certain things didn't allow for other things to be done. So the light bulb moment for me was realizing if I'm in the engine room shoveling coal, I'm not steering the boat. And I had to work on the business as much, if not more, than working in the business. So the one thing that, I will say I thank God for, if I'm going to get religious weirdly about it, is the level of talent and the people that we had and have in the building. So, my first, stepping outside of certain roles was, bringing Mac in for production manager and saying, okay, look, you've been here for long enough. I know you can handle this. Just go, figure it out. And trusting or understanding the fact that it didn't have to be 100% the way I wanted it done. If it was 95% or 90%, even if it's not as good as the way that I wanted something done, if it was 95%, it's the negative space, the amount of time I could do other things, not worrying about it and trusting Mac to do it, freed me up to do all that stuff. It's good. And then being pleasantly surprised at holy shit, he actually really loves the organizing thing, and he's more organized than I thought he would have been, and has a production schedule, and he has more freaking spreadsheets than you could. He spends too much time making spreadsheets at this point. But having someone like Mac there that I can hand things off to and trust took a huge weight off of my shoulder and allowed me, and I'm happy that it was you for the first one, giving you some flowers here. I'm happy that it was you for the first one, because it went so well that I was able to say, oh, what am I thinking? Of course I need to do this. If it was a bad experience where you screwed things up, then I would have reverted back immediately. So that was wonderful. And then having Lucas as store manager for a period, and then having Eric come into marketing and start the marketing department with me, essentially, but all hiring these people from within the company and seeing the individual talents that the individual people had. And then when Lucas, I remember when Lucas decided he was going to move on, having a discussion with Mac going, so who we gonna, bring in to, to fill this void? I think we should bring Ian. And Mac going like, yeah, you're right. He's my lead kilt maker, but you're right. So bring Ian over for that. So it's trusting the talent in the building to be able to do the things that they do, giving them room to be able to succeed, fail, learn, and overcome, and trusting that, in my heart, keeping in the back of my brain, if somebody does something wrong and they screw up, it's not going to tank the business. We'll be fine. We'll cover up a mistake. Either, oh, we send somebody the wrong thing. Okay, fine. Then we'll fix it. We'll send them the right thing. Mistakes can be overcome. So how much do I do daily? I'm doing more things and thinking more about bigger picture stuff, but I still love getting in there and doing the individual projects and getting my hands dirty, so to speak, much to the chagrin of two of the marketing guys in the room, where I may want control over certain shots in certain videos. But I love doing both. I love understanding SEO and getting really involved in the targeted marketing of specific ads that we're doing on Facebook and TikTok and YouTube. And then I love thinking about, huge projects that we're going to be coming out with, as well as having Mac call me and say, while I'm fully dressed to the nines one day, hey, can you come over and fix this machine? I can't get it working. So I love doing different things. So my journey as owner is one of evolution. It's starting out with an obsession for everything Highland wear and an obsession with engineering of garments and of clothing and of the kilt, and kind of letting that passion guide me. And then falling back to my other passions of communication and building community and just talking to people and having like a big fun party is really the type of thing I'm actually trying to build, if I'm thinking about it that way. As well as learning new things and exploring new areas that going to college for communication and working in customer service, I never thought like, what I'm going to do when I'm 45 years old? I'm going to make kilts for a living and have a kilt company. That was never a thought in my mind, but it's finding my fun and passion within the stuff and allowing other people in running the company, allowing other people to find their passion and have fun in the day-to-day operations and find job satisfaction in whatever role that they are in. And that's partially in me allowing them and trusting them to do what they do. So that's a very long-winded way of saying, I love what I do. I hope you love what they do. You do. And I hope you love what you do. And I hope you love what you do. And I'm sorry for what I do to you two. Mac, any thoughts of the evolution of the business? We'll broaden the question a little bit over 25 years, 20 years.
It's been an interesting ride. Like from when I started, we were in Phoenixville, next to the High Bridge, and you, me, and Kelly were like within 3 feet of each other, and crammed in that little corner.
No one fart. That was the rule,
pretty much. And us, or you, or at that point, you're doing everything. You were running back and forth and also dodging air cans. But it like, and then me helping a little bit with, just shipping and picking and packing, and Sue up front, basically helping with the store. And then we move here and that amoeba keeps growing a little bit more. And then there's those little splits that need to happen for us to continue for the whole thing to grow. I've said it before. It's sitting in the back of the car watching mom and dad drive down the road, and we choose our adventure here. And it's the thing is, that car just instead of it splitting, we're still stuck together heading down that path, but we're like Voltron and things keep getting added to it, or we could be a transformer adding to it.
Yeah.
Bringing it back around. And, continuing down the road, and that thing just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And we're just all pulling that sled, all heading the same direction.
Yeah. That's pulling the same direction is another huge key factor, is making sure, over communicating, making sure that people understand where they stand at all times. And you're communicating positive and negative things to make sure that we're all rowing the boat the same direction. That's one lesson I learned from a company in Scotland, that the owner ran the company through darkness. He knew all the information, but he didn't tell his employees what were going on or where they're doing, and he got cancer and quickly realized, like, oh shoot, I need to tell my son how to do all these different things. And I need other people to run parts of this so that I can, go to treatment and make sure that the business keeps going on. That was one lesson I learned from afar, is realizing, no, everybody has to be on the same page, rowing the same direction. So even if it's an uncomfortable topic or a third rail type topic or something like that, we have to hash it out. We have to have discussions so that even if you disagree, you understand where the other people are coming from and why we're going a certain direction or doing a certain thing. So communication in any size business is a huge, huge, huge factor. But yeah, wanting to make sure that everyone has a good time at work and has an enjoyable experience and atmosphere is key, because I don't want to go to a job I hate every day. That would suck. And I don't want anyone here to have to go to a job that they hate every day. So making sure that we're all having a good balance of fun while getting work done, while trying to be the best in our field, while trying to build community and incorporate others into the whole discussion. It's what we're all about. Cool. Lange. Ian.
So for the next one I want to address, I haven't gotten a specific question about this, but it keeps coming up in the comments related to a variety of the questions we've addressed. There's been a lot of lamentation about why aren't there more PV options and why can't I get this tartan in PV? Could you speak to why there aren't as many PV options as there are wool options? Because I think it would address a lot of people's concerns.
Sure. There aren't a huge number of PV options because there aren't a huge number of PV options. There's one mill that we use in the UK that weaves PV. Period. End story. None of the other mills in the UK weave PV. There are other fabrics woven in the Middle East or the Greater Middle East in Pakistan. But it's not to the level of quality of fabric that we would want to put our name on. So we are tying our own hands, saying it's going to be either this PV from this mill or wool from these other mills. And the mill that does the PV only does, I guess, about 75 or 80 different tartans in PV. And it's mostly for schoolwear. And the companies that are buying it for schoolwear are buying, several hundred yards at a pop. And then they just said, okay, well, let's just offer this as a collection for anyone else who wants to buy, these tartans. And they're offering official clan tartans, some fashiony or weird tartans in PV as well. But they're offering some clan tartans in PV. But there's not a ton of call for individual ones. So I don't know, I'm trying to think of it. McInnes red weathered. There's not a ton of call for it, or Mar, or a Coburn or something like that. There's not a huge amount of call for these different things, and at the price point, because believe me, I've tried to get Loch Aaron and House of Edgar to weave PV. Their basic response is, nope, zero interest. I don't know how Martin Mills is weaving it that cheap. We're never going to be anywhere near that cheap. We're not going to weave it. So we're kind of stuck with one mill to weave it. Now, when we weave our custom designs as PV options, so whether it's American Dream or Nordic Heritage or Black Watch Weathered, or like ones that they don't weave as stock supported, but we want them to exist. So we're kind of ponying up and paying in advance and saying, hey, let's weave 300 yards of this or 300 meters of this. That's a lot of freaking cloth. One problem we've run into in the last year is we're running out of room to store PV cloth over in production. So we're going to have to go through another renovation. But there's only so much financial viability in weaving X hundred different designs, and storage for those designs and how much of any one design. If you said, hey, I want the McInnes tartan, and you had 5 people who wanted it, that'd be great. But it would have to be, 50, 60, 80 people who want it to be able to weave enough to get the cost down to keep it as a regular price. So that's the long-winded answer to say it's PV cloth that is stock supported is cheaper, but the mill doesn't want to take the risk to sit on a tartan that they don't know if it's going to sell. We don't want to take a risk if it's a tartan that we don't know if it's going to sell. So we just do ones that we know we're going to sell because they're our custom designs and we know you can't get it somewhere else. So we know we're going to be the only place that you can get it. But yeah, that's the long-winded answer to say it's a difficult one. If you have a huge number of people, if you have using the McInnes, thing here, McInnes Clan Society, great. Come to us with a group order and we can have it custom woven, but it's very difficult to just say like, oh yeah, hey, Martin Mills, do this one and add it to your stock range, because they don't want to unless they know that there's going to be orders through it and they can move through it on a regular basis.
I mean, there's ones we've had in our offerings that they did that just went away. They just said, nope, we're not selling it, even though we were clicking along selling it at a good rate. Like Clan Hay, we had Tartan for a long time, and that always clicked along for us, but it wasn't overall the broader picture. It wasn't selling well for them. They discontinued it. So it wasn't something that we just were like, nope, we're done with them. No, it's the mill wasn't clicking it along, so it got discontinued, and there was
Davidson was another one.
Davidson, Macbeth was another one that they just stopped weaving because they didn't have the demand for it. So while we were moving through it at a great rate
for ourselves,
the rest of the world wasn't. So
I'd say we were moving through it at a reasonable rate, but we're one company.
Yeah.
And, they have to sell to how many other kilt companies sell, A, make their own kilts, and B, sell, if they make their own kilts, do they make them in polyviscose or do they just make it in wool?
Mm-hmm.
And if the schools aren't selecting this particular tartan or that particular one, and they're not shifting through it on a regular basis, they don't want to sit on that inventory and tie up the loom to weave a few hundred yards of it when they can weave something else that they know is going to sell more rapidly.
Yep.
Yeah. So sorry, but I understand the desire. Believe me, especially when they discontinued Davidson. I'm like, oh, come on. We sell that one. They're like, nope, we don't sell enough of it. Like, fine. But I don't want to buy 300 yards of it and then me sit on it for 4 years, 5 years to sell through the whole thing. So
yeah, we definitely feel their pain.
Yeah. Mac.
Alrighty. So we have Aaron Swan asking, I've just recently started wearing kilts more often, 2 to 3 days a week, and I've gotten so many compliments from strangers and his girlfriend. But his family, parents, aunts, uncles, are more embarrassed of his choice. Any suggestions that could help with his confidence around his family?
Yes, I would say you kind of have to just make the mental decision of this is me now and move forward with it. So there's different relationships with different people. So your relationship to, if you said family, just, generically, it's your kids versus your parents versus your cousins versus your siblings versus your aunts and uncles. All those dynamics are different, and the dynamics within any individual family can be different as well. Do you get along with your parents? Do you not get along with your parents? Were you a problem child and you've now kind of reformed and they're still a little leery on it, or, you don't know. So we're kind of making some generalization type statements here. He looked to be early 30s, let's say, and looked to have sort of his own style. So I think you have to, I'm a little surprised with someone with big, holes in their ears, so to speak, that you are a little, reticent. You are a little concerned that they're embarrassed of you. The answer is that's their problem. It's not your problem. Now, you don't want to purposely go out of your way to embarrass them necessarily, but maybe a frank discussion about a thing could help. So let's say, for sake of argument, let's say you're Scottish through your dad's side and your dad's the one that's ribbing you on it. Then you have Scottish heritage through your dad's side and your dad's the one ribbing you on it. Then the answer might be, hey, Dad, look, you're the reason I'm Scottish. So, I understand you don't want to wear the kilt, but it means something to me. And I'm looking back at granddad and great granddad and da 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 and whatever. And this is my way to honor them. I'm sorry it embarrasses you. I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm trying to, honor our ancestors. Maybe your dad's skinny jeans at age 55 embarrass you. Maybe you bring that up. Hey, Dad, look, I know you like to wear your stained A-frame shirt out in public to cut the lawn. That embarrasses me. So maybe I wear the kilt now too, because there is a give and take. I don't know whether you can rib your dad, give him the old, haha, we're joking around kind of thing. Whether you want to have an honest, frank discussion, there's different ways to handle it depending on the situation with that particular parent. But ultimately letting them know that this is something that means something to me for this reason. What are your concerns? Why does it embarrass you? What is the crux of your issue with me wearing the kilt? And having that open discussion, start from there, let them get things out, and then you'll say, okay. And then once it's your turn to talk, and keep your mouth shut while they are talking, give them that respect that they're able to just kind of give you the data, and you'll also be able to use that data in formulating your own answers back to them. But then once you start talking, it's, look, I'm going to explain to you why I want to wear the kilt and why it shouldn't embarrass you. And I'm sorry that it does, but here's how I feel about it. And then kind of move forward from there. That's kind of how I'm going about it, is understanding and have a mutual respect of their side and your side, and see if you can come to some kind of middle ground on it. Maybe you wear it, while you're not around them as much, or maybe you don't wear it. Maybe you wear it to church once a month, not every Sunday, or whatever it is, if they're getting comments from their friends and oh no. But the bottom line is, it's your life. Hey, Dad, I know you probably did things back when you were in your 20s and early 30s that your parents didn't like as well. Maybe you had a motorcycle and they didn't like you having a motorcycle. Maybe you smoked and they didn't like, whatever the thing is. This is my thing. I'm not trying to embarrass you, but this is my thing. This is what I'm doing, in the same way that was your thing. Mac, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously his girlfriend likes it. So that's a positive there.
Yep.
And you're getting compliments from strangers. So the outside world and the person you care about loves it.
I'm assuming he cares about his parents too.
Oh, I'm assuming he does too, but
I know what you mean.
He may not. He might, if he's living with his girlfriend.
Yeah, the person you kiss goodnight.
Yes,
and likes it. Yes,
it's maybe wearing it more on date nights and that type of thing with her is where you kind of maybe set it more towards a thing for her. But the other way I kind of looked at the question though is it that they're are they okay with it, but they're just embarrassed because they think they have a perceived vision of what they think the public is going to be towards him. So where they're not necessarily opposed to it, they're just embarrassed in the public with him wearing it. They think the crowd is going to be One Direction, but it's not.
It's more Backstreet Boys?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Sorry, boy band references. Now I see what you mean, but ultimately, it's if that is their angle, then but that's my problem to worry about.
Yeah,
but it's my thing. Don't be embarrassed or offended or whatever for someone else. Let that someone else do the thing. Yeah.
And if they're seeing the crowd, the people out there giving him compliments, that may eventually change their mind then too. Along those lines, they're seeing people come talk to him and asking him questions versus sneaking a camera pic of him while he's out. I mean, my wife hated that for the longest time. Yeah. Like, she would get so angry and would just be like, would you stop wearing them out in public? Because she got tired of, people trying to take a picture of you, when it's just eventually it became more people coming up and talking to us and being like, hey, you wear a kilt. Where are you from? Where's your
Yeah.
family from? That type of thing.
The only here's the only asterisk I'm going to give this. Do you live on your own and or with your girlfriend, or do you live with your parents? If you live with your parents under their house, under their rules, eating their food and or they're paying for your bills, then you need to factor that into your discussions because they are bankrolling part of your life, part all, whatever it is. So if, and you need to respect them in a certain way. Now, that said, if you don't live with your parents and and it's just you're seeing them on the weekends or whatever it is, then it is your life. If you are your own man, if you are standing on your own 2 feet, if you support yourself, if you're doing everything for yourself, then 100% do what you want to do with it and wear what you want to wear because it is your life. If someone else is bankrolling that life, then they have an opinion. Or they have a vote. It's not the main vote, but they have a vote. I remember when I was getting married, my parents. I was talking to my parents, and Kelly and I paid for our own wedding, and my parents said, hey, look, we have a list of people we'd like you to invite that are friends or or whatever. And my response, respectfully, was, look, here are the friends of yours that I am also friends with. That means something to me that I am going to invite to the wedding. Outside of these, you can have 2 other couples that are yours. Anything beyond those 2 couples, you're paying for. It's my wedding. I want people that I want there. I'm paying for the whole thing myself. But if you want to chip in, then you can have an opinion. Then you can bring your friends. If you're not paying, it's not your decision. And in a very respectful way, I said that. I wasn't quite that direct. But that's kind of how I feel about it. If the person is paying and chipping in, they get an opinion. If they're not chipping in, they don't get an opinion. So, cool. Good luck. Let us know how it works out. Ian.
Yes. So I've got a question here from Sean Mertens. He says, hey, do you guys have any recommendations for practical, I'm going to emphasize that word, footwear that looks good with a kilt?
Practical footwear that looks good with a kilt.
Yeah. So we're not talking about brogues or dressy outfits necessarily.
Okay.
Practical to me sounds like everyday kind of wear. Even more
practical footwear that looks good with the kilt. It depends on the situation. It depends on the hosiery, so to speak. If you are going hiking boots can look fine with a kilt, but they should go with the outfit. If you're, what I would say that I don't like as much with kilts, sandals are right out. It doesn't matter what the scenario is. If you're wearing sneakers, I don't like the look. This is me personally, one man's opinion. I don't like the look of kilt hose with sneakers, but I don't like the look of like real low socks with sneakers and a kilt. I would probably wear. I'm not looking, Mac. I promise. I'm not judging you. I'm judging you. So I would say longer crew socks, kind of scrunched down a little bit if you're wearing sneakers. A great look for kilts are boots. So 8-inch to 10-inch max is about my personal max for boots. So you see some leg below the knee, see some sock above the top of the boot, but work boots or Doc Martens or Thursday boots, like I have captains, Thursday boot captains. I have Chippewa boots that look great with a kilt. So work boots and that kind of thing look chef's kiss to me with a kilt. The only asterisk that I will give on boots is, or sneakers or shoes, is I want to see laces. I do not like boat shoes or penny loafers or Chelsea boots or cowboy boots with a kilt because there are no laces. I hate pull-on shoes with a kilt. I think you need laces. Mac.
I think the sneaker part, if you're gonna go sneakers of any sort, solid color.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
And that is one thing that I have a hard time finding is just plain solid black shoes in general.
So if you're gonna go sneakers, solid freaking color. Max got on solid shoes, I promise. The New Balance or Nikes with like all kinds of like neon colored stripes all over the place. Heck no, just stop. Seek help. No.
Yeah,
sorry.
But you going back to the boots. Like I have a pair of Durangos that I wear.
Okay.
Those are my brown lace ups that I wear. Like those, like I think having a brown set, but again having brown accessories to wear with it as well. It's usually the way I end up going is if I have my brown boots, I have my brown belt on.
Yep.
That's just the whole color matchy thing for me. Black shoes, black belt today. So, but yeah, whatever. But it's got to be comfy. Like no matter what the end result, whether you're putting a liner in there or something, if you're going to be on it all day, you want it to be some sort of comfort to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I agree with everything you've said so far.
Yeah. For dressier type or smart daywear type, looks, I would say a pair of wingtips is a very, very smart look with a kilt. Cap toes are good. Again, as long as they're lace up ones. I love shoes with broguing. I know they're not like necessarily uber formal, but I love shoes with broguing. Yeah.
Now, does it matter to you? Does it matter how it's laced? If it's the crisscross, more the American way of crisscrossing it, or more
Or
of
the
the
straight
bar
laced?
lacing, more European?
I've done both. When I used to wear docks, often I would do the bar lacing across. I also decided that it's a pain in the butt to tighten them up that way. So I've become lazier in my old age. So I still go with the cross laces. Yes.
I'm pretty sure my day brogues are bar laced, and my War One boots are bar laced. I've just gotten so used to the being bar laced now that for me I like that look. But I just want to get your opinion on that while we're talking about footwear.
No, I like both types of lacing. I think they both have their place. They both look pretty. Here's going down the footwear rabbit hole. Why not? So here's the other question for you. I noticed that some shoes, like dress shoes, some of them, the leather sides meet in the middle, and others there's a gap, purposefully a gap.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that was actually two different styles of shoe, whether the sides where the laces like stop a little bit versus actually meeting in the middle. So I had a pair that stopped, and I'm like trying to tie them tighter to get it to meet in the center. And I was like, God, it's really tight now. Do you have an opinion on whether you like a little bit of a gap to show the tongue and the back side of the laces versus having the leathers touch in the center?
I'm trying to think of my shoes now. Trying to think of the face of them. I think I prefer more closer together.
Yeah.
I think in the end, I think that's my boots, my Durangos. I think they come in closer together, and my other boots, everything comes closer together.
Okay.
Helps keep the debris out. Good old debris.
Yeah, the old Debris. Yeah. Hate Debris. She's horrible. All right. Hope that helps. I know it didn't, but we hope it does. Ian, was that you or is that Mac? Okay, Mac.
Alrighty. So we have...
We'll do two more, I think. One from you, one from Mr. Ian.
All right. So, this is right up our alley. So Noah's asking...
I'm hoping we're not asking questions that aren't up our alley.
Yeah. How many kilts do you own, and how many did you make for yourself?
How many kilts do we own, and how many do we make for ourselves? Ian, how many kilts do you own, and how many kilts of them did you make for yourself?
I got a weird answer to this because I found out we had this question this morning.
Because of course we do.
Yeah, I texted my wife because I wasn't sure. I said, "Hey, are you at home? Can you see how many kilts I have hanging up. I knew I had to add a couple because I have a few here. And she said, you had 18 on Tuesday. Like, wait, what? I don't know why she was counting them earlier in the week when I wasn't asking this question. But the answer for me is I own 21, I believe. And only one of those is unwearable. So I have 20 wearable kilts. I think I made all but 3 of them. My original kilt when I was just a customer here that you or Kelly made for me in the Anderson tartan. My Broad Street Bullies tartan was made for me. I did work here, but I wasn't making wool kilts yet, so you made that for me, Rocky. And then I have your prototype blue wool kilt that I wear pretty regularly.
Oh,
tweed
yeah.
kilt would be a
Tweed
better
one,
way to
yeah.
put it. Yeah.
Okay. Mac.
So I had to write a list
counted.
up,
Oh.
and I had to add 2 more while we were talking on the show because I forgot about. Currently, I have 25.9. I have one that is almost finished. That's where the 0.9 comes in.
Okay.
5 of those were made by someone else, not me.
Okay. The how many do I have? I didn't count. I don't know. And I also have this. I probably have still north of 40 because I have a full closet and I have some of my kilts here in case I want to wear a particular tartan for a particular video. And then I also have the issue that I had some kilts from when I was skinnier, and then some of the sizing of the kilts grew over time, and then I lost some weight, and now I've kind of gone past where I was originally with kilts, so now I have I don't know which ones fit and which ones don't at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably have mid 40s in kilts, and how many have I made for myself? Of the last 10 or so, I don't think I made any of the last 10 or so. Because as I've kind of stepped away from kilt making to work, more high level in the business versus making kilts all the time, I've made a couple, but nothing in the last about 10.
And the other thing you've done with the last couple that we've made in house here is you've had a kilt maker over there. You've picked one out. You picked a kilt maker out. You said you went to the kilt maker store and picked one out.
Exactly. Yes.
And had them make it for you. Again, testing our ability and testing the quality that we're doing as well.
Yeah.
Making sure that we're still on par. It's something that he would actually wear.
Yeah. And I like doing it because it makes them nervous.
Yo.
No, but in all seriousness, I want to make sure that it's our name on the line when we're putting things out the door. So whether it's, it's making sure that, it's consistent from the way that I used to make things and the standards that I set for things, and that I transferred to Mac when he started making them. And then as he's teaching other people to do things, and then they're teaching other people to do things, we're not losing things in translation, that things are still done the way that it used to be. And there's still, on occasion, something will come up and I'll be like, why are we doing this way? And I'm like, yeah, that's how they've been doing it. Like, but that's not how it used to be done. And then we kind of discuss, roundtable discussion, which is better, why, and then whichever is the better way to do the thing, that's how we do the thing. So yeah, and I would rather have somebody make a kilt for themselves or for me as their first, wool kilt than do things for a customer. So we kind of, make sure that if we're working the bugs out, they're worked out on ourselves, not on someone else's kilt that we're making out there in the world.
Yep, exactly.
So, yeah. So yes, I have a good number of kilts, and the last several to dozen somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I did not make. I've had House of Edgar make a couple. We've had my Soul Tire kilt was not one that I did because you can't make that one. You can only buy the finished kilt. Barb Tewksbury. Yeah, Barb Tewksbury made this kilt that I'm wearing right now. Yeah, and then as we kind of test different companies or different individuals to see what they do, and if they do something different, we order kilts in just to try it. And if a kilt happens to be in my size, then it happens to be worn on the show, then I can write it off. So yes, but it's still good to keep our hands in things and make sure we're playing around with stuff for
Yeah.
ourselves. So if we have, our own issues with the way that something feels or fits or whatever, we can kind of get to the root of the problem.
Or even just trying something out. Doing, hey,
Yeah.
let's see what happens if we do this.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Experimentation.
Oh, yeah. It's
is
100%
always
on
on
us.
us.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. We would never experiment on someone else's kilt. Heck no.
Yeah, I mean, I have material over there that I want to do. I want to completely hand sew one. He's calling me nuts for wanting to do it, but I want to at least do one that I say I've completely 100% hand sewn this kilt. And that is a goal that I've had for a little while that I'm eventually going to cut it out and I'm going to do it. So
Make sure you do it on your own time.
Oh, yeah.
That's- I'm not paying you to hand sew. Jeez, takes way too long. All right, Ian, what do you got?
Got a short one here, so we can get leave some time in here for question of the day. Got a question on YouTube from somebody who came up with their name like the Scotch description earlier. Imaginary Works production like sorts inside dream. They want to know. Question. Does
I thought that was the question.
It just flows off the tongue.
Yeah. Question. Does USA Kilts make kilts from tartans that are found in Curious and Unusual Tartans?
Sure. The Dropkick Murphy's tartan was just highlighted the other day. I designed that one. So yes, I've done that. It's not allowed anymore, but yes, I've done it. There are
That one back there?
Yeah, Curious and Unusual Tartans. Some of theirs are registered, some are not. So not all the tartans are official tartans, air quotes. So if there was a particular one, the tea berry tartan, because it's different shades of red and pink and blue and green, whatever. If you want something done that happens to be in there, sure, it can be custom woven just for you. But back to the touching on the custom weave thing, it's not cheap. So if you have a custom tartan just for one person, you're weaving just enough cloth for one kilt, which ends up being $1,200+ for an 8-yard kilt in a particular tartan. So can it be done? Sure, absolutely. Is it cost effective? No, because a lot of the ones that are in there are not stock supported. Now, there are some that are stock supported and great, but the whole point of Curious and Unusual Tartans is to showcase, oddly enough, curious and or unusual tartans, which are not usually stock supported. So it ends up being a custom weave. So I hope that helps. Sorry, it's not a great answer because it's cost money.
She just got to get, or they have to get on them right when we have them.
Exactly.
Begin with, like
Yes.
Appalachian.
Yes.
That was on there.
Oh, was it?
I thought it was on there.
It may have been. Who
Wasn't
knows?
Appalachian on there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, ooh.
See?
Very good. So, yep. Then you have to get in on that as soon as
Mhm.
we do it. Yes, absolutely. All right. Let's go over some answers for the question of the day. Bring the graphic back out there. Bam. So what's one item or idea from Highland dress, realistic or not, that you wish would happen? Ian, what do we got?
So we've got a few variations on this theme, but Daryl Bulis put it first and most succinctly. He says, I wish the whole lifestyle were more affordable.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. It's unfortunately when you're dealing with custom garments, whether it's a custom made suit or a custom made kilt, it's never cheap, but I wish it was affordable. Yes, agreed.
Yeah, some folks echoed that. They wish they could grow their collection faster, if only they could afford to do so. We also have a lot of variations on this theme, but Don Q put it again first and most succinctly. His dream wish is that all the tartans were available in PV.
Yeah. I think that we're going to see a trend of if money's no object. Forget
Yeah.
unrealistic or not. It's going to be if money's
That's why I
no
was trying
object.
to lump a bunch together.
Yeah, so we're going to start the USA Kilts financing company.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seamus Domhnall says his dream, custom or traditional kilts on demand that can be weaved with new machines that produce in one day. Just like 3D printers of today, we could have our kilts or tartan goods fast and well made.
Okay. I like that idea. I'll just put more pressure on the mills. It's fine.
Yeah. The question did say not restricted on feasibility.
Yeah.
Yes, understood.
Brian P said for tartans to not be restricted. Not many
Okay.
are, but some are, and if you want them, it's tough.
It is a frustrating thing. I will break it. I'll break that into two categories. if it's restricted and you can't get a hold of the person who restricted it,
Oh, yeah.
that's extremely frustrating. Like, hey, this tartan was designed in 1995 by Dr. Phil Smith Jr. and, he's dead. How do you get the tartan unlocked to be able to produce it? Yes, that's frustrating. Now, tartans that are designed by a company that still exists, that still weaves the tartan, we will use ours as an example. If someone says, hey, I want to weave the Celtic Nations tartan, that's ours. We can weave it and sell it to you, but that's ours. That's why we designed it. So there's two sides to that coin, but yes, I'll say not having access, not that I'm changing your answer because it's your answer. Why am I even talking? But not having access to restricted tartans by any means, that is extremely frustrating. 100%. I see where you're going. Any others?
Yeah, I got a few more.
Sure.
Maddie Montana wants a bigger variety in highland dresses and jackets.
Okay.
Christopher Scholl says, I'd love for custom dyeing to be less expensive.
And more readily, I don't want it to be custom. Just have it be there and done, and I can just go A, B, C, D. Done. Yes. I agree 100%.
Old Kirk Kinnaman says, I wish I had a bigger closet. That's,
He
other
can
side
fix
of the,
that problem.
other side of the coin from the not enough money, not enough space.
Yes.
And Percy Play says, I wish the Star Trek tartan was not locked behind a membership paywall.
Yeah.
Because that's related to a specific club.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. Understood. No, good answers. Good answers. Yeah, keep them coming. So if there's any other things that you want to see happen in Highland wear with no restrictions, no reservations, whatever you want to do, sky's the limit, let us know in the comments. Cool. Thank you very much, boys and girls. Until next time, Slan Java.
Rawr.